boys and girls. This is Mrs. Payne. I know some of you are learning about line plots in your math class, so I wanted to make a little help video for you. So let's talk about line plots. What's the purpose of a line plot? So the purpose of a line plot is really to make a picture of some data that you've collected so that you can interpret the data more easily. So I went out and I collected some shells and I measured my shells in inches. I have 12 shells, so I have 12 pieces of data over here on my whiteboard. Each measure represents how long my shells are that I collected. So now I want to put that data onto my line plot so I can organize my data in a way that I can then interpret it. So what I first need for a line plot is my number line. My number line is from 1, and you'll notice my data here. The smallest measure that I have is 1¼ inches. So I start at my number line at 1. I've measured to the 1/4 inch. So on my number line, I have gone from 1 up to 3¼ which is my biggest measure for my shell. So now this is my number line. That's not my data. And that's something that a lot of students confuse. This is only my number line, and it has the numbers of the measures that I've collected. So now I'm actually going to put my data on the number line. And the way that we do that is we either use X's or O's. I'm going to use X's. So for each one of my measures, I'm going to put a X over that number on my number line. So my first, and I like to cross off my data as I add it to my line plot. So my first measure is 2¾ inches. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to add an X over 2¾ My next measure is 3. So I put an X over 3 on my number line. 1¼ X goes here. 1½ X goes here. Another 1¾ that X goes there. 2¾ X there. 3¼ 2¼ 1¾ 2¾ 1¼ and 2. Now, I also like to double check that I've made sure to plot all of my data. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 pieces of data. I should have 12 X's on my line plot. So I'm just going to do a double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I have all of my data. So now by making this line plot of my data, you see that the data is organized in a nice, easy way to know. Now I can make some comparisons about my data. So the first thing that I notice on my line plot is right at 2¾ I have the most shells that measured 2¾ inches. That is called my mode. Mode is most data points at one location on your number line. And for my number line or my line plot, it's 2¾ inches. That's my mode. Now, another thing I can easily calculate is the range of my data. So the range of the data is the longest shell minus the shortest shell. Now, I started my number line at 1, but notice I don't have any data at 1. So this is another misconception that students have. They want to use the lowest number on the number line. But in reality, the lowest data point on my line plot is 1¼ inches. So my range is going to be the difference between my longest shell, which is 3¼ inches, and my shortest shell, I happen to have 2 of them, which is 1¼ inches. And we know difference is subtracting. So when I subtract my mixed numbers, I get a range of 2 inches. Okay, so that's some conclusions that you can draw from the data that you've plotted on your line plot. I hope you found this helpful and check back with us again for more help videos.